Football, the Unyielding Card Master strikes back. Episode 141, In the Arena, My Rules Are Rules. Inside the Huaxia studio. Hello viewers, you are watching Huaxia TV. This is the live broadcast of the third round group stage of the Carl World Cup. What is brought to you now is the live broadcast of the match between the national team and the Danmai team. I am today's narrator, He Wei. At the same time, the guests we invited today are also my good friends, Xiao Guan, Guan Ziyuan. Guan Ziyuan, hello audience friends, I am Guan Ziyuan, I am very happy to meet you again. He Wei, Xiao Guan's previous predictions were quite accurate. Guan Ziyuan, teacher He Wei, don't make fun of me. He Wei, haha, just kidding. He Wei, but I still want to ask, Xiao Guan, what do you think about this game? You can talk to the audience friends. Guan Ziyuan, this game is still not easy to say. Seiki Ziyuan, the last game of the third round group stage. Seiki Ziyuan, the top two of the other groups have already been released, and this match is also very related, and the pressure on both sides is not small. Seiki Ziyuan, although on the surface, the Huaguo team should be stronger than the Danmai team. Seiki Ziyuan, but it is difficult to make a direct conclusion in football. After all, the Danmai team is not weak. He Wei, yes, both sides of this match are very good, and 24 believes that it will be a wonderful matchup. He Wei, and the pressure on Mbappe should be relatively large, and there have been two seniors shouting before this. Seiki Ziyuan, yes, Messi is better, after all, they are teammates of the same club, but the shouting of Sigong is different. He Wei, Sigong is Mbappe's idol. Guan Ziyuan, Mbappe has expressed his worship of Sigong more than once, which makes Messi, who is also a superstar, very jealous. He Wei, ha, that's right, Boss May said that he was very hurt. How? In addition, the core of Danmai's midfield has also returned, Eriksson. Guan Ziyuan, that's right, I remember that he should still have a pacemaker now, right? How? Yes, he really loves football. I still keep competing. How? In the game where he had an accident a few years ago, the Danmai team built a Danmai wall for him, which is still unforgettable for many fans. How? Eriksson is back today, and hopefully he can lead the Danmai team to a good result. Guan Ziyuan, yes, at the same time, we are also looking forward to the performance of the national team today, and we expect Mbappe to have a good state. He Wei, okay, now that the competition is about to start, let's take a look at the interaction between the audience and friends in the live broadcast room. At this time, in the Huaxia live broadcast room. Whoosh. The return of EDS, the Danmai fairy tale continues, full of touch. Mbappe, Director Mu. I'm here for you, and I'm going to score a few goals today. Director Mu, this man who is known as driving a sports car on the field and playing football. Today show your amazing speed and break the spell. Brother Ning, I'm here to see you, Mbappe or Mujiope, I don't know. Brother Ning, the last group game, come on duck. After this match, all the top 16 teams will be released. Will there be Brother Ning in the future? Bapi, is the gasoline full? Please start your show. The live broadcast room started for less than 3 minutes. 80 million viewers watched online. Although the game has not yet begun, Namama is extremely hot. The audience had a lively discussion. More spectators came for Jiang Ning, looking forward to his law enforcement. At this time, in the playing field, players from both sides slowly stepped in amid the wild cheers and shouts of the scene. The enthusiasm of the scene has been raised to the extreme, and the sound soars to the sky, deafening. Jiang Ning entered with the referee team and stood in the middle of the players on both sides. Brother Ning is out, everyone get up to cheer for Brother Ning. I have Jiang Ning, who do you have? I have Jiang Ning, who loves who? I like to watch Brother Ning's law enforcement. In the competition field, my rules are rules. No matter what angle you look at, Brother Ning is still so handsome. Brother Ning kills me, or die. In the audience, fans from Huaxia were the first to cheer. The rest of the audience came for the teams they supported. Only Huaxia fans came to support the judges, and this is no one. Next. Fans on both sides also began to cheer. The roar of fanatical roar began one after another, and before the game even started, fans on both sides already felt a suffocating tension. Because both sides want to win this game. As long as the national team wins, it will be able to enter the round of 16 steadily. And if they lose, whether they qualify depends on the number of goal difference. As for the Danmai team, it is even more necessary to win. The Danmai team played abnormally in the last round of the group stage, and if they lost this game or drew it, they would have to roll it up. Therefore, the Danmai team will definitely do their best to win the national team. Judging by the lineup of both sides. In the 25-man roster of the national team, although there is one less, the lineup is still extremely luxurious. The team plays in the 42-31 formation, which is very much in line with their current forward lineup. Central defender, Varane, excellent frontal interception, extremely fast. Right back, Pavani, excellent in ball and possession, decisive footwork. Left back, Hernandez. He plays for Bundesliga hegemony Bayern Munich and is a defensive top defender in the world. Midfielder, Rabiot, the core of the midfield of the national team who can attack well and is good at cutting forward. Forward, Griezmann, known as Plaid Grid by fans, is the world's third all-rounder who can organize and score. Right winger, Dembele, who plays for La Liga giants Barcelona, is talented and in hot form this season. Left winger, Mbappé. He is the top player of the national team, one of the top superstars in football today, and has the best instant explosive speed in football. Center, Olivier Giroud, with a tall stature, excellent heading ability, often used as a single arrow in the game, is the team's goal-breaking weapon. On the other hand, here in the Damn My team, the same main force is full of strikers, Cornelius. Excellent athleticism, has a greater range of motion in the front, more interspersed running, and at the same time has the ability to play as a winger, a versatile player in the front. Forward, Mikel. Superb technique at the feet, good at coordination and forward insertion, with strong scoring ability. Goalkeeper, Schmeichel. He impressed the fans with his extremely brave runs and saves, and his excellent advance prediction made him the undisputed patron saint of the Damn My team. Midfielder, Eriksen. He is known as the heart of the showdown at the heart of the Damn My team. As long as he is there, the organization of the attack will be higher than the wave, and he is an absolute leader. Once because of a serious heart problem in a game, the scene where the Damn My team built a Damn My wall for him still makes the fans' hearts tremble. Now equipped with a pacemaker, he is still running on the field with 857 balls. This spirit and love of football alone is worth learning from all players. The whole team plays 343 formation, and has a strong steal and breakthrough ability in the midfield. Team Huagua has a luxurious attack line, like an anti-spear, sharp and fast. But the Damn My team is also not a fish belly. This match will definitely bring fans a regular feast of attacks. Afterwards, the players from both sides sang the national anthem and shook hands. Beep. Jiang Ning checked the time with the assistant referee, then raised his hand high and blew the whistle for the start of the game. This decisive battle between Needles and My Mang has officially begun. After splitting the ball, the Damn My team will be the first to kick off. Boom. The football was fired and mastered by Eriksen of the Damn My team. After getting the ball, Eriksen took a few steps forward, followed by a long pass in an attempt to send the ball to a position outside the box. However, the players of the national team were not vegetarians, and immediately stuck their positions and fought with the Damn My players. Boom. A muffled sound came, and the players of the national team forcibly kicked the football out of the scramble and rebounded back to the half of the Damn My team. So, the players of the Damn My team immediately turned their backs and went to catch up with the football. But at this moment, a figure rushed out from behind. The Damn My player only felt a cool breeze rising from his back, and the cold air was coming straight out. Hey! Watch out behind you. At this time, the teammates of the Damn My team also reminded loudly behind him. But it's too late. The speed of this figure is too fast, and in the blink of an eye, it overtakes from behind and snatches the ball. It's Mbappé. As soon as he starts, he shows a terrifying speed. Episode 142. Less than a minute into the opening of episode 142, the first topaz card appears. On the playing field, Mbappé suddenly launched and attacked from behind. With his amazing speed, like a whirlwind, he rushed behind the Damn My players. Overtaking. Body squeeze. Steals. The action is done in one go. By the time the Damn My players reacted, Mbappé had already pushed him aside and had already cut off the football. Damn it. It's too fast. Stop him. The Damn My players were furious, and at the same time anxious. This is if the team conceded the ball at the beginning because of their own mistakes. He will become a sinner of the Damn My team. Never allowed. So, the Damn My player gritted his teeth fiercely and chased after him, and at this time, Mbappé had already started the explosion with the football. In front of him, there were two Damn My defenders, one left and one right. The fans of the national team at the scene let out a heaven-shaking cry. This game has only just begun. Is it about to start dreamily? As long as this goal is scored, today's game will be good. They seem to have seen the hope of scoring goals and seeing the light of victory. Rush. Mbappé. Use your impressive speed to break through their defenses. The time for revenge has come, and Mbappé will lead the Hua Kingdom team to break the spell. Cheers to me. All stand up. We are fans of the championship team and we can't lose our momentum. Score a goal. Get off to a fantastic start. After that, this game will become the training ground of the national team, and just when the fans of the national team were shouting madly, Mbappé had already rushed outside the box with the watching. Boom. Then came a muffled sound. Bang. Mbappé was pushed from behind by the Damn My player just now, and slid a long distance on the ground before stopping. This also shows how fast Mbappé is. It's just that the body's center of gravity is unstable, and the action of inertia makes him slide out for several meters. Jiang Ning whistled and ran in stride. In fact, when Mbappe launched just now, Jiang Ning had already noticed it, so he had been paying attention to the situation here. Almost the moment Mbappe fell, Jiang Ning had already sounded the whistle. Jiang Ning ran over, very decisively took out a yellow card from his chest and showed it to the Danmai player. Yellow card warning. It was a tactical foul that blocked the attack of the national team, and there was no problem giving a yellow card. Wow. No, just a few minutes into the game, I got the first card. I've heard that this Huaxia referee is very strict, but I didn't expect it to be so strict. I don't know how many cards will appear in this game, so I'm looking forward to it. Really, brothers, it's only good to have this kind of referee ball game, otherwise many players are targeted too badly, and the referee doesn't care. There was another uproar at the scene. Just 1 minute into the game, the referee gave a yellow card. How ruthless. I really can't tolerate a little sand in my eyes. Know that the sooner the yellow card appears, the greater the impact on the player's mentality. There are even some exaggerated claims that the more important the game, the more players who are yellow carded, the more wasted. Why do you say that? Because the players will be afraid. If you are worried that you will eat cards again, you will be sent off. Being sent off is not your player's own business, but it can have a huge impact on the entire team. It's even deadlier than sending a penalty. So, if a player gets a yellow card too early, he will be extremely careful in his next moves. They may even be afraid to do actions for fear of fouls. Now the Danmai team has eaten a yellow card, which is undoubtedly a huge blow, but for Mbappe, a yellow card seems to be flat and not satisfactory to him. At this time Mbappe walked to Jiang Ning, expressing some dissatisfaction. Referee, shouldn't this foul be given a red card? Red card penalized him. I'm probably going to score this ball, can't you see it? Mbappe expressed his thoughts to Jiang Ning. In fact, this is not to blame Mbappe. First of all, Mbappe is still very young, 23 years old, young and frivolous, and it is normal to have a little temper. His main meaning is that he formed a single knife. According to the rules of football, if you are violated and fouled in the case of a single knife, you can be awarded a red card. But it also depends on the situation, depending on the time of the game, the intensity of the game, and the opponent's foul method, etc. Shut up. Jiang Ning directly scolded. Mbappe was stunned. He never thought that this young referee of Huaxia would be so tough. How to say that you are also a top star? Isn't it normal to express some of your dissatisfaction? If you don't listen, you won't listen, and you won't let people talk? And just shut yourself up? This is also too horizontal. Jiang Ning frowned, his face slightly cold. He said in a deep voice, just now, there are opposing defenders in front of you, left and right, and you can't form a single knife, so, not a red card penalty. Remember, I'm different from the other judges, don't question my decision, and I don't care who you are. After speaking, Jiang Ning took a deep look at Mbappe, and then turned and ran away. Mbappe scratched his head a little embarrassed. His expression was a little embarrassed. Especially when Jiang Ning looked at him like this just now, he had a sense of exposure as if he had been seen through. It's not a good feeling, and it's nerve-wracking. Until this moment, he understood that this Huaxia referee was really different and not easy to mess with. Mbappe nodded to himself, relieved his embarrassment, and then slowly ran back to the team. Beep. Jiang Ning sounded the whistle and awarded a free kick to the Huaxia team. The location is nice, about 25 meters from the goal. Although the goal is a little far, if you cooperate, there is enough distance to change the direction of the football, and you can do a lot more hands and feet inside. This ball was given to checkered Griezmann to take the penalty. Boom. The football soars into the air and draws an arc in midair. Was a high penalty. High point scramble. Suddenly, the players of both teams immediately jumped high and snatched the header of the first point. Shout. At this moment, a tall figure jumped up violently, and the height of the jump was also proud of other players. Great Giroud. The center of the national team. Because of his tall stature, he is the best at tall heads, and the goal weapon of the national team. A center like Giroud is actually a type that the Argentine team has always wanted. In the last match between Argentina versus Mexico, they had no advantage over high penalties. It's not that the Argentine team doesn't have tall people. It's that the tall men of the Argentine team are all players in the back line, used for air defense. On the offensive end, their strikers are really not too tall. Therefore, the Argentine team is very envious that the national team can have an offensive firepower like Grand Giroud. Boom. After the football fell, it was accurately smoothed by him. The ball immediately changed direction and rushed towards the bottom right corner of the goal, extremely fast. The goalkeeper of the Danmai team simply did not have time to react. You can only watch the football rush by. Boom. The football smashed on the upright and tumbled out of the bottom line. A little bit worse. There was another exclamation at the scene. It's just a little bit closer. I'm afraid 5 centimeters to the right, this ball can be ejected into the net. What a pity. But I have to say that in just 3 minutes of the opening game, the fans of the national team were already boiling. Almost broken. Just don't be too exciting. The football fell out of the line, and the linesman also raised a small flag at the baseline. Goal ball. The ball is back in Danmai. The Danmai goalkeeper adjusted his breathing and drove the ball out to midfield. Boom. Midfielder Eriksson picked up the ball with precision. The technique and control of his midfield at his feet are also evident in this moment. The core midfielder didn't rush forward, but kept the ball at his feet and let his teammates slow down. The Danmai players were a little too nervous just now, they need to calm down and relax. At the same time, slowing down the attack speed can also cool down the state of the Huagua team. The players of the national team almost scored at the beginning, and there must be a strong desire to attack at this time. This desire cannot be allowed to breed. Boom. After observing for a while, Eriksson finally began to organize the attack, sending the ball to the feet of Cornelius on the left wing. The counterattack of the Danmai team is also about to begin. Episode 143. When he was furious, Jiang Ning's whistle sounded. Ask for subscription, ask for customization, ask for full determination. The Danmai team fought back. First Eriksson held the ball in midfield, and then a very sudden long pass was sent to the left wing where Cornelius was. Boom. Cornelius successfully received the ball, and this stop was very clean. But then 2 defenders of the Huagua team were greeted in front of him, trying to force him out. And at this time Eriksson, who had just finished passing the ball, had already run over and was ready to catch. The football was successfully passed out, and Eriksson was immediately greeted by drilling out of the pockets of 2 players of the national team. And Eriksson did not stop the ball, let alone try to shoot, but sent a straight cold. Another wall to match. As soon as Eriksson ran up, he immediately sent the football into the penalty area of the national team. Who was in the forbidden zone? Still Cornelius. It turned out that after Cornelius passed the football just now, taking advantage of the distraction of the 2 players of the national team, they immediately rushed to the penalty area. And Eriksson, as if he had long expected that Cornelius would insert, did not hesitate in the slightest, and directly sent a straight plug. This kind of cooperation is not something that can be done simply. The tacit understanding between each other is self-evident, and there is definitely no less effort in this regard. Cornelius interspersed and squeezed into the opponent's penalty area. Just 2 people, with a tacit cooperation, directly penetrated the defense line of the Hua national team. Football is right in front of him. The goal is also close at 730. Raise your feet and hit the door. Boom. Cornelius did not hesitate, and the defensive players of the national team did not give him time to hesitate. Even if it is 0.5 seconds late, the route of the goal will be completely blocked. Forced shooting is the only option. You can't get in. Boom. At this time, the goalkeeper of the Huagua team looked solemn and hurriedly made a blocking action. He scolded, spread his feet, and successfully intercepted the football. In the end, the football was destroyed out of the sideline, and this clever and rapid attack of the Danmai team was broken up by the national team. Phew. The players of the Hua national team breathed a sigh of relief and showed a look of apprehension. Who would have thought that the Danmai team, which is obviously not very luxurious in the forward lineup, could break through their defense in such a short time? This Danmai fairy tale is definitely a strong opponent. Danmai then threw a free kick, but unfortunately this time it was no longer a threat to the team. The ball of football is back at the feet of the national team. At this time, the faces of the players of the Hua national team were solemn, and they were no longer as relaxed as before. The football was fired immediately at the feet of midfielder Rabiot. Rabiot pushed forward with the ball, followed by a long pass that sent the ball in the direction of Mbappe in front. Mbappe launched instantly. Known as the only man to drive a sports car on the pitch, his speed is definitely not covered. After he got the ball, he quickly penetrated towards the left wing. At this time, the Danmai team immediately had 2 defenders pressing closely. Obviously, the Danmai team is also particularly vigilant against Mbappe, and there are detailed deployments and tactical targets for him before the game. Mbappe held the ball at his feet, stood on the left wing, and did not act rashly. And the 2 Danmai team defenders in front of him were also calm, and did not rush to stretch their feet. This is a very experienced means of defense. Don't make a rash move, just form oppression. But as long as Mbappe makes a move, they will not hesitate to intercept. Mbappe's eyes were sharp, and the afterlight from the corner of his eyes constantly observed the position of his teammates, and suddenly, his eyes lit up. Good location in Dembele. Shout. In an instant, Baby's engine roared again. I saw him jerkily raise his foot and make a motion to pass the ball. Sure enough, this action attracted the attention of the opposing defenders, almost subconsciously stretching out their feet to intercept. But at this moment, Mbappe's foot movement suddenly stopped. The foot that was supposed to pass the ball also snapped. The football bang rolled to the bottom line. Fake pass, real buckle. After Mbappe deceived the opposing defender, he immediately took the football and went deeper towards the bottom line. At this moment, his speed is reflected again. Achieved transcendence. It's too late for the two defenders to catch up. With his speed, Mbappe created a gap at the bottom line, and this gap can pass the football out. Inverted triangle pass. Boom. Mbappe moved on his feet, and the football was passed in reverse to the middle of the box. And there, exactly where Dembele is sitting. Great opportunity. This pass was very sudden. This is true for the Dynamite players, but also for the Huagwa players. Even Dembele was a little unresponsive. When the football came to him, he didn't have time to think about it, almost subconsciously raised his foot and pushed. Boom. Football soars into the sky. This kick is high, the football is a big cut above the crossbar of the goal, and it jumps out of the bottom line. Wow. The scene was full of exclamations, followed by roars of disappointment and unwillingness. This kick pass is already very thoughtful. How Nadenbiel was not ready, nor did he reach a tacit agreement with Mbappe, and the national team wasted a great goal opportunity. Dembele shook his head helplessly and sighed, then clapped his hands in the direction of Mbappe and gave a thumbs up to apologize. The goal wasn't scored, but it was exciting and suffocating enough for fans on both sides. Not long after the start of the game, both sides were in full swing. Such a showdown is not something you can see casually. Boom. The football was fired again at the feet of Eriksen, the heart of Dynamite's midfield. Shout. But at this time, Mbappe came again. After Eriksen got the ball, Mbappe once again unleashed his speed to launch the press. Today he was very excited and very active in running. Good fellow, it's really fast. Eriksen was secretly wary in his heart, and then with a beautiful turn, he swung past Mbappe's pressing, and then sent the ball out. He has a lot of experience and is very calm in the face of pressing. Shout. The football was sent to the left wing, still going to find Cornelius. However, this time, it was recognized in advance by the players of the national team and stole the ball. The counterattack of the Asian national team is coming. As soon as the ball was lost, the Dynamite players immediately strode back to their own half and quickly returned to defense. Boom. After the players of the national team stole the football, they also immediately launched an attack, sending the football to the position in the midfield with a long pass. Dembele took the advantageous position, turned around to catch the ball, and successfully received the ball down, and in front of him, it was Eriksen who blocked his way. As the core of the midfield, Eriksen naturally needs to delay the opponent's attack as much as possible when the opponent launches a fast attack counterattack. It would be even better if you could grab the ball straight back. And Eriksen is very experienced, he quickly approached Dembele, trying to block his route with his body. Before you know it, Dembele has been forced to the sideline, and there is a possibility of going out of bounds at any time. Boom. Dembele moved on his feet, wanting to force a one-man ball to score. The ball passed Eriksen's instep and rolled forward. And Dembele also quickly got rid of Eriksen, intending to chase the football back. However, the strength of his kick is slightly greater. Before he could catch up, the football rolled out of the sideline and at the feet of the head coach of the national team on the sidelines. The head coach of the national team is named Deschamps, 54 years old this year. Usually he is a very calm person, but at this time he can't help but be angry. Dembele's kick of the anti-aircraft gun just now already made him very dissatisfied. Now there is this low-level mistake again, passing the ball to his feet. The meritorious head coach of the Huagwa team couldn't help but reprimand. Boom. Deschamps kicked the football away, pointed at Dembele's nose and cursed. What are you doing? Pass the ball to me? What brains do you have? Don't you know to pass to your teammates? Are you engaging in personal heroism? Do you think you are a hero? Beep. However, just when Deschamps was furious, Jiang Ning suddenly sounded his whistle. Episode 144, Coach, I can't control you? A topaz card. Wow. The scene erupted into a burst of noise. What is this referee going to do? What is a good whistle? Moreover, he is the head coach of the Huagwa team who ran to the sidelines. When Deschamps saw Jiang Ning running towards him, he was also stunned. Soon, Jiang Ning came to Deschamps and then took out a yellow card in the shocked eyes of everyone. Yellow card warning. Warning the head coach of the national team. Whether it was fans or players at the scene, they were all stunned. Referee, what do you mean by that? Can't I teach my own players? Deschamps asked in a deep voice. Jiang Ning glanced at him lightly, and then said in a condensed voice, "Put away your emotions and don't interfere with the progress of the game. You teach the players that it's okay, but don't kick the football flying, it's disrupting the game. Remember, anyone from either team who interferes with the pitch will give a card. Even if you're a coach, it's the same. Jiang Ning, the person in the audience, has no authority to manage. But the players, the coaches on both sides, these can be controlled by the referees on the field. The coach interferes with people on the court, and the same can give cards." After speaking, Jiang Ning didn't care what expression Deschamps had, he directly turned his head and left, and sounded the whistle to urge the game to continue. Deschamps' face turned red. He looked at Jiang Ning's back, and for a while he felt a very humiliated feeling. He has led the national team for more than 10 years and won many championships. But today he was reprimanded by a young referee from Huaxia? A little unexpected and at the same time a little overwhelmed. But no matter what, even if Deschamps is not happy, it is impossible to contradict Jiang Ning again. At the age of 54, he has long learned to be able to flex and stretch, and at this time there is one word: endure. The referee's rights on the court are still very large, and I can't afford to mess with it. At this time, Dembele on the side looked at Deschamps a little at a loss. He wondered if he should say something. Just now he was still being taught by Deschamps, and the next second his head coach got a yellow card? This incident started because of yourself, right? Do you want to open your mouth to comfort the manager? Look. Bastard. Hurry up and get back to the game. Deschamps blushed and scolded Dembele. Dembele suddenly shrank his head, fled into the court, and did not dare to linger anymore. And this scene just now has also aroused widespread heated discussions among fans in major live broadcast rooms. Ha ha ha. Absolute, this referee is really absolute, even Deschamps is blessed. I really don't give face at all. How can Deschamps say that he is also a champion coach, the meritorious veteran of the Hua national team? Is it really good to be so hard steel? You forgot, right? This referee is from Huaxia. What is he afraid of? Afraid of the bloodbath of the enamel team? Then there has to be a chance. Well said, the Huaxia team is not something you can meet if you want to touch. If you can compete with the Huaxia team, it is better to disband. Judge Huaxia, you successfully attracted my attention, I have pinned you. In the live broadcast room, everyone talked and laughed. Before, everyone scolded Huaxia football a few words. Over time, the current people are too lazy to scold. The game continues. The Danmai team threw the ball out of bounds and organized another wave of attacks. But the Danmai team's forward firepower point is only 2, and it is difficult to achieve a surprising effect after being targeted. In the end, the national team still won the ball and beat back the attack of Danmai Fairy Tale. The match has only been about 8 minutes into the game, and the battle between the two sides is already fierce. The enamel team held the ball and slowly advanced to the cheers of tens of thousands of fans at the scene. The Danmai team returned quickly and returned to their own pitch as soon as they lost the football ball. The attacking rhythm of the national team is no longer so rapid, passing back and forth in the midfield looking for opportunities. Boom. Rabiot of the national team kicked across and pushed the football to the left side of the front. That's where Mbappé is. In terms of offensive advancement, the team seems to rely on him very much, almost habitually dividing the ball towards his position. And this habit was also seen by the Danmai team. Suddenly, Eriksen moved. Just as Mbappé turned to catch the ball, Eriksen bent down, his eyes sharp, like a hunting beast. Like a cheetah, Eriksen appeared behind Mbappé. Hey! Watch behind you, watch out for the back. Suddenly, the players of the Hua national team shouted to remind Mbappé. Mbappé's face changed, and he immediately reacted to protect the football, but it was still a little too late. The reason why the Danmai team is good at intercepting attacks in midfield is precisely because of the presence of such a midfield core as Eriksen. He attacked quietly, and he had a mind to calculate or not. How could Mbappé have time to react? Shout. Eriksen came out from behind Mbappé and stole the ball. And just when Eriksen launched here, Cornelius and Mikel had already rushed to the front. It can be seen from here that the Danmai team is very skilled in counterattacks and fast attacks after steals, and there must be no less effort in this regard. Boom. Eriksen didn't give Mbappé a chance to catch up and redeem. Almost as soon as he gets the ball, he doesn't need to see where his teammates are, he knows everything. Because of this cooperation, they have done it countless times. The football soared into the sky, and Eriksen sent the football to the right side of the front court as soon as he made a steal. That's the direction Mikel ran. At this time, the Huagua team, they only have 3 players on the back line who have time to retreat to defend. 2 to 3 in the front court. Boom. Got it. Michael's eyes lit up, and while ensuring the forward speed, he still took the football steadily. Then Mikel completed the transfer of the football before the opposing player could make a foot to intercept. Shout. The football shifted laterally and landed in a very comfortable position for Cornelius. Wow. The fans stood up with a bang. Especially the fans of the Danmai team are even more excited. This wave of fast attacks is really beautiful. Now it's up to Cornelius to hit the ball. Boom. Under the gaze of countless fans, Cornelius raised his foot and exploded. The football slammed into the goal like a cannonball. Swish. Football should be on the net. The ball went in. Jiang Ning's arm front finger, the goal is effective. Rumble. The whole audience is boiling. The Danmai Fairy Tale Legion, with less than 10 minutes into the opening game, scored and took the lead. When everyone is optimistic about the national team, when everyone is expecting Bapi to push the opponent. The result was a fantastic start for Team Danmai. The score is rewritten. 0-1. The Danmai players hugged together excitedly to celebrate the goal. After getting this fantastic start, I believe that the Danmai team will play more relaxed and more comfortable. The next game, it's hard to say. In the previous group stage of the Fukuni team, they were either in the lead position or in a draw. Never lagged behind first. This is the first time that the national team has been scored by the opponent in this World Cup. At this time, in the Huasha studio. Ho Wei, good ball. Pretty. The ball went in. Hervey, Danmai took the lead and now the score is 0-1. He Wei, just now, the Danmai team staged a textbook-level fast attack. Guanzi Yuan, yes, this time the fast attack cooperation should also sound the alarm for the back line of the Hua national team. He Wei, I think that the Hua national team is still not vigilant enough, and the front is too pressed forward. Guanzi Yuan, in the end, they are too relaxed and too dependent on the attack line formed by several people of Mubape. He Wei, yes, but this ball is because of Baby's stoppage error. He Wei, now that the Danmai team has taken the lead, I'm afraid the Huagua team is not very easy to play. Guanzi Yuan, I guess that the Huagua team should play more cautiously next. Seiki Ziyuan, their back line needs to be further back, while the offensive line needs to play more. He Wei, the shot of the stadium just now was specially given to Deschamps, the head coach of the Huagua team. He Wei, this champion coach's face is a little unpleasant. Guanzi Yuan, just now, Jiang Ning showed a yellow card warning, so quickly the national team was scored a goal. Guanzi Yuan, I estimate that Deschamps is probably going to storm away again. Ho Wei, haha, let's keep an eye on the game and see how this defending champion will save itself in the face of adversity. Episode 145. Jiang Ning only needs a look to calm people down. The lightning-fast attack of the Danmai team knocked on the door of the Hua national team, shocking countless people. And this goal has triggered heated discussions among countless fans in major live broadcast rooms. Wang Defa. The Danmai team is indeed the bitter master of the enamel national team. Football is a sport where one thing descends one thing. The Danmai Fairy Tale Legion is the restrained enamel team. No, I think this is the championship curse of the national team. If the championship curse really prevents them from qualifying, the only team that can crush them out of the group stage is Danmai. The sorrow of the national team. Bapi sorrow. No, I can't accept it. The Huagua team will definitely be able to turn defeat into victory. Auditorium. Everyone discussed it enthusiastically. Watching the ball at the game and watching the ball across the screen are really two concepts. This kind of hot atmosphere can really infect everyone on the scene. On the green field, the Danmai players celebrated enthusiastically. And the Huagua team here is looking at each other, and some can't believe this cruel fact. Deschamps on the sidelines was still cursing, and his emotions were a little out of control. This is actually a mistake of the entire back line of the national team. And also a low-level mistake. Deschamps crossed his hands at his waist, and the scolding spread throughout the half, and anyone could feel how unhappy he was at this time. Huh? But in the next second, his scolding stopped abruptly, and then he turned his face indignantly and sat down with anger. This sudden change made many people stunned. But soon, they all reacted. It turned out that just now, it was Jiang Ning who turned around and glanced at Deschamps coldly. Although Jiang Ning didn't say anything, the yellow card warning just now was still vividly remembered, and Deschamps subconsciously converged a lot. In fact, Jiang Ning didn't mean anything else, just thought that his voice was too loud, which would affect the players on both sides. Beep. Afterwards, Jiang Ning sounded the whistle to signal the game to continue. The players from both sides restood in formation, and the ball was driven out by the Huagua team. At this time, you can clearly feel the changes in the national team. Their adjustment was swift, and the quality of the strong team was quickly revealed. After the kickoff, the entire back line is still pressed back and no longer rushes out easily. But Mbappe and Dembele and Griezmann are positioned even higher. This allows them to quickly pose a threat to the Danmai penalty area as soon as they get the ball. Boom. The football was passed in midfield, and the team still chose to advance methodically. This choice of theirs is very wise. Generally, after a team loses a goal, the first reaction is to speed up the pace of attack and expand the offensive surface. But in this way, it is also easy to deal a fatal blow to the back line. The Hua national team can still choose to advance calmly at this time. One is because the time is still early, and the intensification is also the embodiment of the comprehensive quality of the strong team. Being able to calm down quickly when falling behind is something that many teams can't do. Suddenly, the enamel team sent the ball to the feet of Dembele on the right wing in midfield. This pass is very fast and very sudden. It's a very different rhythm from the slow passing before. If you don't move, it's a blockbuster. Boom. Dembele took the ball down, took possession at his feet, and immediately broke through towards the bottom line. Then, with his excellent personal ability, he successfully passed the ball outside the penalty area in the middle. It's also an inverted triangle-like pass, only with a larger range and more confusing. When Dembele passed the ball, many of Donmai's defensive firepower was already attracted to him. Such a sudden reverse cross is really somewhat unexpected. And the person responsible for receiving this ball on the periphery of the central penalty area is Griezmann of the national team. Boom. Griezmann stopped the ball, and before he could make a move, the Donmai players immediately came up and blocked him. Griezmann was once known as the third man in the world, which shows how strong his ability is. I saw him stepping on the football under his feet, and he didn't panic at all in the face of the bad clips of the two, and then he stepped on the football foot and jerked back. Shout. The football followed his movements and quickly rolled towards the rear. And at the same time, Griezmann's figure also began to retreat with the football, which is a distance of 2 meters. And the distance of 2 meters is enough for him to do a lot. Just after Griezmann stepped back 2 meters, he jerked out and the ball was hoisted into the box. High point hanging. The audience was in an uproar. The fans showed incredible looks. Griezmann's cross is very thoughtful. In the face of the defense of the two, the sudden retreat made the other party unable to understand his situation at all. It is impossible for the Donmai team to defend him with all their strength. After all, there is also a very strong breakthrough ability next to him. Griezmann also saw through this, so he didn't mean to find Mbappé in this cross. Instead, find the big Giroud in the middle. Known as the header ace of the national team. Boom. The football jumped up and jumped past the defenders in front. And at this time, the big Giroud strode forward and competed for the best spot to grab the spot. However, the Donmai team naturally has someone to watch his header bomber, so when Grand Giroud launched, the Donmai defenders also immediately followed, blocking in front of him, trying to use their bodies to block his path. Football starts falling. Big Giroud forcibly jumped. His tall figure was so eye-catching in the crowd, and after jumping up, he was more than half taller than the others. A muffled sound came. The football has been topped. The sturdy one was squared by the big Giroud. The football instantly changed direction and rushed to the goal. The face of the goalkeeper of the Donmai team changed greatly, and he didn't have time to think about it, so he could only rely on his instinctive reaction to intercept. In fact, this kind of ball, for the goalkeeper, the difficulty of interception is extremely difficult. It's too close to the goal. And the change of direction is extremely fast and varied. Sometimes the point where the head touches the football is just a little bit different. But because of the difference in the original speed and power of the football, as well as the difference in the strength used by the top player, the angle of the football change direction is very different. It can even be said that it is a world of difference. So, even though the Donmai goalkeeper was already trying his best to save, it was still inevitable that the football would pass through his fingertips and get into the net. The football is in. Beep. But at this time, Jiang Ning sounded the whistle. The players on both sides turned their heads to look at Jiang Ning, who was running in stride, and their expressions were different. Jiang Ning just stopped, indicating that the goal was invalid. There was another uproar at the scene. However, before the fans could make a sound, Jiang Ning had already taken out a yellow card from his arms. Jiang Ning ran to the front of Big Giroud and took out the yellow card. Foul on pressure. Big Giroud looked at Jiang Ning and opened his mouth, but still nodded, which was regarded as accepting this sentence. In fact, many people have seen this action just now. When Big Giroud jumps, because the best position is blocked, he can only jump 1.1 lines stronger. But where he jumps, it's not easy to touch the football, and there are some distances. So what to do? I can only put my hands on the body of the Donmai player in front of me and forcibly tilt my body forward in midair. So after hitting the ball, the player who was supported was also crushed to the ground. And Grand Giroud himself was also unstable in his center of gravity, and the whole person almost fell on the body of this Donmai player. This is an undisputed foul on the attacking side. And the foul comes first, so the goal is invalid. Damn it. This referee's eyes are sharper than a knife. It's a pity for such a good opportunity. Deschamps, the head coach of the Huagua team, couldn't help but scold angrily a few times. Of course, he also knew that this actually had nothing to do with Jiang Ning, and any referee would award a penalty like this. It's just that for him and the team of the country, it is too desperate to need a goal. The feeling of being blown ineffective after scoring a goal is 10,000 times more angry than not scoring a goal. Episode 146. Like a fierce tiger out of the cage, like a hidden dragon ascending to the abyss. The game continues. Because the goal was whistled for a foul, the ball was naturally returned to the Damn My team. The Damn My players also exhaled a long breath, feeling like they had escaped death. Against an opponent like the Gongwa team, it is obviously not safe to just lead by one goal. If it weren't for the Damn My player jamming Big Giroux's position just now, causing him to foul, this goal just now would have been almost a must. What's more, there are 3 more beings on the front line of the Hua national team that should not be underestimated. You have to strengthen your defense and score another goal as soon as possible. Boom. The football was driven out with big feet and sent to the midfield position. Players from both sides immediately scramble for the soccer spot. This time, it was won by the national team. But the Damn My team has clearly done their homework on this. The moment the players of the national team snatched the players, 3 Damn My players immediately surrounded them. This is really not given a chance at all. Even if you want to send the ball out for your teammates to pick up, look down, including your own 8 feet. And the bad clips of the 3 people gradually closed the range, not even leaving a gap. In the end, football was still forced out of bounds, and it was still the possession of the Damn My team. The Damn My team continued to keep the football 19 at their feet, with Eriksson roaming the midfield with the ball. At this time, the Huagua team was very vigilant, and it was obviously impossible to rely on the kind of fast attack cooperation just now. Eriksson himself drove forward with the ball and gave Michael by a gesture. Mikel nodded absently and began to sneak quietly to the right. With codes and gestures like this, every team will have many. Each gesture represents a different tactic and scheme. More commonly, it is usually a hint from the penalty player to his teammates, before issuing free kicks and corner kicks. For example, a certain gesture represents a high penalty, a certain gesture represents a tactical corner kick, a certain gesture represents a low flat ball, and so on. This is good for helping teammates to occupy the best snatch points in the moment of football launch. Eriksson quickly chose to pass the ball shortly after bursting in with the ball. Just in time to send the football out before the players of the national team stretched out their feet to intercept, the timing can be said to be extremely accurate. Boom. The football rolls fast, interspersed and goes straight along the sideline, always maintaining a straight route, and successfully reaching the feet of Mikkel. After seeing that the ball could no longer be recovered, the players of the Huagua team also very decisively chose to give up and directly surrounded the pass in the direction of looking at Mikel. Seal people, don't block balls. After Mikel gets the ball, he starts quickly. He didn't have the slightest hesitation, as if he had already made plans about how to break through. Even the players of the national team did not expect that the other party would be so quick and neat. I saw Mikel smashing on the football, and the football immediately rushed to the bottom line. Meeker followed suit. He wants to break through from the bottom line. Is it another inverted triangle cross? Or is it a direct lateral cross to outflank in front of the goal? It's all possible. But as long as you keep an eye on him enough, you can stop him. The defensive players of the national team are very confident. But in the next second, an accident happened. After Mikel rushed to the bottom line with the ball, it seemed that there was no intention to stop at all, and he rushed as if he wanted to rush out of the bottom line. Just as the football was about to qualify, Mikel suddenly turned around and smashed a heavy kick on the football. Boom. The football bounced back like a cannonball and smashed into the feet of the unprepared players of the enamel national team, before being knocked out of the bottom line. Make a corner kick. This was Eriksson and Mikkel's original plan. They don't want to break through or pass the ball at all. From the beginning, they planned to ask for a corner. The national team player who was hit by the football was stunned in place, looked down at his feet, and then looked at the football that flew out of the bottom line, and gritted his teeth fiercely. By this time, if he still can't figure out the other party's plan, that's his problem. From beginning to end, they were all used by each other. In fact, all this is Eriksson's customized combat plan. As a central figure in the Damn My team, he is already watching and looking for offensive opportunities when he is in possession of the ball. After determining that it was difficult to break the defensive line of the Huagua team through normal means, he naturally began to think of other methods. Like free kicks, corners, and penalties. However, the difficulty of the penalty kick is too great, and the referee of this game is also very sharp, it is difficult to create it easily. Then free kicks and corner kicks are preferred. After all, this is an opportunity to carry out an uninterrupted attack. How can it be more real than a normal advance? It has to be said that the Damn My team may not be the most fearsome opponent, but it is definitely one of the most attentive opponents. Beep. Jiang Ning whistled, the linesman raised the flag, and pointed to the position of the corner kick point. Danmai managed to win a corner. This corner kick was still given to Mikel. Mikel sent the ball off as soon as the wall was lined. Boom. Football is flying. It's a high-altitude ball in front of the point. It was close to the goal. As long as you can grab the first point, the chances of Danmai breaking the goal are not small. The football fell, and the players who had long been ready to take off also jumped up and grabbed the landing point. Boom. However, this landing point was still jacked out by the players of the national team. In terms of height advantage and high-altitude point grabs, the Danmai team is still slightly inferior. But after the football is ejected, there is still a chance on the periphery. Or Eriksson. He had been wandering outside the box before the corner kick started, when the ball was pushed out and he just rushed up. Boom. A powerful volley. The football should be heard. This kick volley is powerful, like a fierce tiger coming out of the cage, like a hidden dragon ascending into the abyss. The players of the Danmai team at the scene screamed excitedly, clenched their fists, and stood up, their faces full of hope. Originally, when they learned that this match was against the Huagua, their hearts were already extremely desperate. After all, this year's national team is undoubtedly unprecedentedly powerful. Even in the hearts of Danmai fans, a draw today would have been a very good result. Unexpectedly, at the beginning of the game, they got a dream start and now they are likely to score a second goal. Suddenly, they seem to think that the Huagua team was just like that. Rush. Eriksson. You are the best midfielder and this goal will definitely be scored. Goal. I am willing to trade my 10 years of life. Who said we Danmai only have fairy tales? What they bring us, there is also endless emotion and persistence. Defeat the Huagua, Danmai myth is close to the round of 16. A loud voice erupted from the scene. The fans stood up and cheered for the players on the field. On the green field. Football 8-13 through the gap in the crowd, page to the goal. Boom. The goalkeeper of the national team reacted fast enough this time. When the football hit, he had already made the first prediction and pounced on the right side of the goal. In the end, the football was punched out by his double fists, or flew out of the bottom line. Keep refreshing the corner kick data. Jiang Ning and the lineman showed at the same time. It's still a corner kick for the Danmai team. But with the second corner, Danmai didn't have such good luck. After Mikel sent the second corner kick, the goalkeeper of the national team took the initiative and directly confiscated the football in midair and recovered the ball. This extremely sharp attack of the Danmai team was finally interrupted, and the Huagua team was able to temporarily breathe. For the players of the national team, they themselves could not believe that they would be forced to be like this by the Danmai team. Beep. With a whistle. The game continues. The football ball is in the hands of the goalkeeper of the national team. By this time, the game had reached the 15th minute of the first half. It's still early, and it's hard to say. Boom. The football was fired, the same big kick-off, directly sent to the position of the midfield. And at this time, it is time for the players of both sides to compete for the ball of football. The players of the national team and the Danmai team are running hard. But it seems that the Danmai team players have more advantages in grabbing points. Boom. However, during the scramble, the players of the national team made a very obscure pushing action on their hands. This also caused the Danmai player to get unsteady on his feet and stumbled towards the outside of the field. But such a collision is terrible. Because right in front of him, but standing the head coach of the national team, Deschamps. Episode 147, the substitute players off the field can't control you? All red cards. On the sidelines of the game, something unexpected happened. The Danmai players were unsteady in their standing during the fight for the ball, resulting in their bodies crashing uncontrollably into the field. Not far from him outside the field is exactly where Deschamps, the head coach of the Huagua team, is standing. At this time, Deschamps was still indignant, and the two corners just now were too worthless. At the same time, he didn't even think that someone would suddenly bump into him in his direction, so for a while, he simply didn't have time to react. Although he was already trying to dodge at the crucial moment, he was still one step slower and was knocked to the ground by this Danmai player. Wow. The scene was suddenly shocked. The uproar, screams, and roars rose and fell one after another, even warmer than when the Huagua team almost scored just now. Boom. The Danmai player knocked Deschamps off uncontrollably, and Deschamps was no better, rolling twice on the ground before stopping. You know, Deschamps is 54 years old. Where can it withstand such a shock? If you don't get this wrong, you're going to have an accident. Moreover, what is Deschamps' identity? Meritorious coach of the national team. This is a real veteran, who has coached the national team for more than 10 years and 6 months. Whether in the hearts of fans or players, Deschamps' status is difficult to shake and replace. So, the moment Deschamps was knocked over, the whole stadium was stunned. But more trouble is yet to come. Just after Deschamps was knocked over, the players of the Huagua team, who had been sitting on the bench behind him, suddenly couldn't sit still. Someone rushed to Deschamps to protect him. Someone also called the team doctor and immediately examined Deschamps. And the fastest action is to count 3 of the hottest substitute players with the hottest temper. They rushed up in anger at the first time, lost their minds in anger, and punched and kicked the damn my player. The scene was suddenly chaotic. The fans roared continuously. Even the security personnel on the sidelines were stunned. They simply did not expect that the big conflict would come so quickly and suddenly. I didn't expect that it would appear in the match between the national team and the damn my team. And at the moment of physical altercation here, the players of the national team and the damn my team in the field also rushed up. Some of them want to help, and some want to persuade. But no matter what their purpose is, so many people rush over, the scene must be chaotic. What's more, is the bench of the damn my team vegetarian? Can they endure seeing their teammates being beaten innocently? Naturally, as soon as he dropped the water bottle in his hand, he rushed in anger. Beep beep. Beep beep. At this time, Jiang Ning sounded the whistle. His face suddenly became gloomy, and he ran at an extremely fast speed. Even in the face of dozens of people on both sides, Jiang Ning did not have the slightest emotion. Get out of the way. Get out of the way for me. Jiang Ning scolded twice and began to forcibly drill into the center of the conflict between the two sides. At this point, the physical confrontation rewarded by the system comes into play. I saw that he pushed sideways, pulled away a few people on the periphery, and quickly got in. And during the march, even if someone accidentally bumps into him, it feels like hitting an iron plate. It hurts when you hit it. And Jiang Ning? Standing still. Beep beep. Jiang Ning whistled again. Motionless. Refusing to let go? Beep beep. Jiang Ning whistles again. The shrill whistle sounded at a very close distance, and it was also a whistle that Jiang Ning used all his strength, and the sound made the scene instantly quiet. Jiang Ning spread his hands horizontally, pulling the players on both sides apart, and he himself stood at the center of the conflict. At this time, there were still impulsive players who wanted to rush up to give the other party 2 blows, but after seeing Jiang Ning's action, they immediately retreated back. I saw Jiang Ning's face gloomy. Without the slightest hesitation, he directly took out a red card from his arms. Immediately afterwards, he showed the 3 substitutes of the national team who had just taken the lead. 3 red cards in a row. Wow. Everyone, look at it. What is that? I didn't read it wrong. It's a red card. That's right, it's a red card, and I took out 3 red cards in a row. Jiang Ning can deal with it. There are things that are true. Such a chaotic situation. How dare other referees approach? How many cards does this Huaxia referee have on him? If there are many people around him, I feel that I can still take out some cards. It turns out that pulling frames is useless, or red is good. There was a burst of noise and shock at the scene. This referee really dares. When both sides are angry, they dare to give cards directly. Are they not afraid that people will get carried away by an impulse and also make a move on the referee? It's really not scrupulous at all. You must know that in history, when players' emotions are under control, there are not uncommon cases of anger against referees, and there are really many cases. But this Huaxia referee is really fearless. It's like when the gangs on both sides are desperate, and when they have already killed the red eye, an unarmed police officer suddenly runs out. Can you imagine that dozens of people on both sides will scatter at once, or will they simply kill the police officers? It's all possible. I have to say, it's risky. And at this time, Oria on the sidelines was so anxious that his eyes were red. For the first time, she felt that she would be so worried because of a person. What are you all doing stunned? Hurry up. Jiang Ning is in danger. Oria hurriedly called the security personnel on the sidelines. After shouting, regardless of whether they followed or not, Oria had already rushed into the crowd like a moth to a fire. And at this time, Jiang Ning's sentence is not over. His eyes were incomparably cold. This is the first time he has encountered such a vicious violent conflict since he refereed the World Cup. But he was not afraid and did not favor either side. Despite the anger, there was no loss of mind. Soon, he took out the yellow card from his arms again. Show it to the players of the national team who made a foul on the damn my team players when they were fighting for the ball just now. In other words, Jiang Ning showed 3 red cards and 1 yellow card to the national team at one time. Spread it all for me. Gather here again, all yellow card warnings. Team doctor, come here. Beep beep. Jiang Ning whistled again, and under his extremely strong play, coupled with the pull and persuasion of other players on both sides, the crowd finally gradually dispersed. And under Jiang Ning's guidance, the team doctor of the damn my team was able to squeeze in. The damn my player must have been injured just now, and the team doctor must be examined to determine whether he can continue to play. At this time, Jiang Ning also saw Olia, who was flustered in the crowd. Oria was like a panicked bird, looking left and right, helpless in the crowd. She was trying to find Jiang Ning's figure. Jiang Ning. After Olia saw that Jiang Ning was safe and sound, he immediately cried out in surprise. Subconsciously, she is going to run to Jiang Ning. But I didn't expect to get a reprimand from Jiang Ning. Oria, get out, don't interfere with the game on the pitch. Jiang Ning frowned and scolded. Oria stopped, and suddenly his eyes worked. Her eyes were instantly filled with tears, and even she didn't know why she felt so wronged at this moment. Standing in place, he bit his lip aggrievedly, and then covered his face and ran off the court quickly. When Jiang Ning saw Oria's appearance, he realized that he was indeed in the arena. It's a bit serious. But now that the game is still going on, she is just a receptionist, or a woman with no chicken power. She rushed into the stadium rashly, which was actually very dangerous under the situation just now. It's just worrying about her safety. At the same time, Jiang Ning didn't want the rhythm of the game to be disrupted again. It's nice to say if Oria is a security guard, but she is not after all. What is the matter of running into the stadium? Jiang Ning looked at the back of Olia running away and stood in place and was silent for a while. But soon, he came back to his senses and continued to engage in the game. And at this time, Jiang Ning's face sank again. Because he found that the 3 substitute players of the national team who were shown red cards by him just now were still in the bench position. Not yet. Beep beep. Jiang Ning immediately strode towards the direction of the substitute bench of the Hua national team. Immediately afterwards, he pointed at the 3 players of the national team, then pointed to his own eyes, and finally pointed to the outside of the field. This is ordering them to leave the stadium. Episode 148, How Far to Roll Me, Don't Appear in My Field of Vision. At this time, in the Huaxia studio, He Wei and Guan Ziyuan stood up in exclamation. He Wei, ouch. Oh, my god. What happened? He Wei, there was an emergency at the scene. A big conflict broke out. He Wei, what about Jiang Ning? Jiang Ning rushed over as soon as possible and blew his whistle. Guan Ziyuan, good guy, directly show 3 red cards. Guan Ziyuan, it's too ruthless, Jiang Ning is too strong. Don't give room at all. Seiki Ziyuan, this means that if the Hua national team can advance to the round of 16, these 3 substitutes will also miss the next match. Guan Ziyuan, it will have a great impact on the next tactical part of Desham. He Wei, yes, but such a move is really irrational. Hervey, the damn my players obviously didn't mean to hurt Desham, so there's no need to make such a fuss. He Wei, not only will you not get benefits, but you will only push the Huagua team to the tip of the Oka Gully. Seiki Ziyuan, that's right, these 3 players will also be severely punished by FIFA after the game. Seiki Ziyuan, this is the worst violent conflict that has occurred since the start of this World Cup. He Wei, this did not happen to the beautiful team and the Yizalong team at the beginning. Guan Ziyuan, oh yes, Mr. He Wei, just now Jiang Ning made an action at the end. It seems that many puzzles are a little unclear. He Wei, you mean, Jiang Ning pointed to the movement of his eyes, right? Guan Ziyuan, yes, can you ask Mr. He Wei to explain it to the fans? He Wei, okay, in fact, this is just a red card penalty. He Wei, Jiang Ning's action actually means very simple. That is, let these 3 players out of their sight. He Wei, speaking of which, many fans should not know very well. Hervey, most people think that a red card is to get a player off the field, but that's not really the case. He Wei, the meaning of the red card is to get it out of the referee's sight. Guan Ziyuan, yes, audience, please remember that in football, the power of the referee is above all else. Seiki Ziyuan, the referee's yellow and red cards can be shown to anyone in the field. Seiki Ziyuan, including players, staff, coaches, team doctors, and even caddies. Guan Ziyuan, as long as it obstructs the referee's law enforcement game, you can give a warning card. How? Yes, so it's easy to understand. For example, if a caddy interferes with the referee, or interferes with the player's game. He Wei, but he is not bound by the FIFA ban, so can't he do whatever he wants? He Wei, so, the real meaning of the referee's red card is to keep him out of his sight. Guan Ziyuan, commonly known as, how far to roll me how far, don't appear in my field of vision. He Wei, ha ha ha. Ignore the words. Guan Ziyuan, under normal circumstances, players who are sent off with a red card can return to the bench. Seiki Ziyuan, this is because the referee also retains his right to watch the game. He Wei, yes, if the bench is still not honest, the referee can order him to leave the pitch and not stay. Guan Ziyuan, okay, thank you for the explanation. Guan Ziyuan, next, let's take a look at the interaction between fans and friends in the live broadcast room. At this time, in the Huaxia live broadcast room, the barrage is already extremely dense. After all, this is the biggest conflict in this World Cup at present, which naturally has triggered extensive discussion. Wow. Stimulate. Isn't this better than a ball game? Domineering my brother Ning, really killing crazy. This is the bottom line, what about the national team? 3 ruby cards. The last action that took them out of their sight was really handsome. When Brother Ning rushed in alone, I was still worried. Wow. Brother Ning is so strong, I like it so much. Are the substitutes of the national team adding drama to themselves? Can't get on the premises in a different way? It's true that they were photogenic anyway, and now everyone knows them. Wait. I just saw that woman again. What did she run into the field for? Want to whwa my Ning brother? 111 in the field. At this time, the chaos on the scene has gradually subsided. Under Jiang Ning's strong intervention and the intervention of security personnel, the 3 players of the Huagua team were forcibly sent out of the stadium passage. The other players gradually calmed down. Jiang Ning had a cold face and scanned the players on both sides. He was not in a hurry to continue playing, because both Deschamps and the Danmai player were still being examined by the team doctor. However, since such a conflict occurred, Jiang Ning, as the referee, should pay more attention to the next game. The smell of gunpowder on both sides is probably stronger. At this time, the fans on both sides of the scene were unusually quiet. They also turned from anger to worry at first. The worry is what direction the next game will go. However, at this moment, a fiery red flag fluttered among the fans on both sides. Ha ha ha, our Brother Ning's law enforcement is different from other judges. I'm sure that the other referees must not dare to rush up to stop it when they encounter this situation, right? That's for sure. There is only one referee, they have players, substitutes, team doctors, etc. There are many people. It has to be my Brother Ning. Just shoot 3 episodes of red cards, let you directly come to your senses. It's too domineering. The red card actually has this effect. Don't appear in our field of vision. How far to roll me, how far? Live audience. Huaxia fans, under the leadership of Brother Qian, frantically cheered for Jiang Ning, which became a beautiful, but a little weird landscape in the stadium. In so many World Cups, there has never been a special purchase of tickets for referees to watch the World Cup matches. And Jiang Ning's move won the love of everyone in Huaxia, so that more and more Chinese people came to the World Cup. Under the organization of Brother Qian, there is a unique group of people in the audience who shout for Jiang Ning. Jiang Ning turned his head and nodded at the location where Brother Qian and the others were. Immediately, Jiang Ning ran quickly and blew the whistle as the game continued. Beep. Deschamps is not a big deal, and the Danmai player who was beaten just now is not injured and can continue to play. By this time, the first half had gone on for nearly 30 minutes. In other words, the conflict caused by Deschamps' impact caused the game to be suspended for more than 10 minutes. The players from both sides returned to their positions and the game continued. The ball is owned by the Danmai team. And a free kick from Danmai. It's just that this free kick doesn't mean much, it's almost in the midfield position, and it's hard to pose any threat. So Danmai chose to go straight ahead and send the ball to Eriksen's feet. Shout. Eriksen was still calm, even after the conflict just now, he still seemed calm. After calmly observing the opponent's dynamics, he once again divided the ball to the right wing, still looking for milk. Shout. But at this time, the cheetah-like Mbappe launched a surprise attack again. He had conceded a ball once before under Eriksen's steal. Now he's going to get it back. Boom. As the most valuable player of the national team, Mbappe naturally shouldered the heavy responsibility at this time. His comprehension is very high and his learning ability is extremely strong. He has been secretly observing Eriksen's passing routines and rhythms. Finally caught by him. Successful ball break. Immediately afterwards, Bapi turned into a hurricane, swept out, and rushed to the goal of the Danmai team with the ball alone. Stop him. Don't let him into the restricted area. Fence around and block his route. The Danmai players reacted immediately and began a crazy catch-up. The reason why Mbappe can become a top star is not just because of his extraordinary speed. Speed is just one of his many virtues. He also has excellent personal foot technique. Shout. Bapi has already rushed outside the box with the ball. Episode 149, isn't it, another yellow card? Mbappe rushed forward with the ball, and the speed was amazing. Once again, he threatened the Danmai backline with his excellent speed. At this time, the 3 people on the backline of the Danmai team naturally did not sit still and had already surrounded them. There are also Danmai team players chasing behind Bapi. Now the most important task for the Danmai players is to keep Bapi out of the box. You chased me on both sides, touching the hearts of all the fans. Jiang Ning also paid extra attention. Because this situation is the most prone to fouls. One of the players in the back line has already pushed out of the box, and the other 2 are one in front of the other as the second line of defense. And the player who came out at the top naturally wanted to drag Mbappe as much as possible to buy time for his teammates behind him. Wow. There was an uproar. Too fast. Mbappe's speed is really fast. At this time, it has already been handed over with the defensive players of the Danmai team. And this Danmai player is also very smart. Instead of trying to steal Mbappe's football, he jammed his path with his body. After doing all this, he judged Mbappe's transfer action, and then stretched out his foot to intercept. That's what an experienced defender needs to do when dealing with emergencies. However, he still underestimated Mbappe's personal ability. When the defender blocked his way and stretched out his foot to intercept, Mbappe also made a very wonderful pass. I saw that Mbappe first paused slightly at the speed of his feet, and then turned around with the ball very decisively, and easily swung past the opponent's interception. Bastard! The defensive player cursed secretly, quickly got up and could sing. And at this time, Mbappe had already felt the footsteps behind him getting closer and closer. Because he had just made a turning action and shifted his direction, his speed had inevitably been slowed down a bit. The people behind are going to catch up. Now the only way, that is to accelerate. Shout. I saw that Mbappe had increased his speed again on the basis of the already extremely fast one. This scene stunned many people. The same also made the players of the Danmai team break out in a cold sweat. And at this time, seeing Mbappe accelerate again, the players chasing behind him were also anxious. Swish. A forced sliding shovel. Danmai players put a tackle. In his opinion, even if it is a foul, he must stop Mbappe. Otherwise, with Mbappe's speed, they can't catch up behind, and there are only two teammates left in front. Mbappe is likely to cause a goal. It's just that the Danmai player didn't notice that when he put the tackle, one of Mbappe's feet had successfully stepped into the box. Mbappe was put to the ground and rolled twice. Beep. Jiang Ning instantly whistled, pointed his finger to the penalty position, and showed a yellow card to the Danmai player. A penalty was awarded. Rumble. The scene was boiling. All the fans cheered. The players also clenched their fists and waved excitedly. The national team is jubilant here. But here the Danmai team is the opposite. Especially the player who put the shovel just now, the whole person's face turned pale. In fact, after the slip shovel was released, he already knew it. But at that time, he couldn't help himself, and he couldn't change his movements at all. In the World Cup, and in such an important game, give the opponent a penalty. It is actually very fatal for the team and for him personally. Unless he can be salvaged in the next matches, his own professional race will probably have an impact as well. Beep. Jiang Ning sounded the whistle, signaling the crowd to disperse. At this time, Mbappe walked to the penalty spot with the football in his arms. It was a penalty opportunity, created by Kylian Mbappe's personal ability. At the same time, it is also handed over to him to complete the main penalty. Mbappe is very calm and calm. Only the goal. He crossed his hands at his waist, trying to adjust his breathing. And the goalkeeper of the Danmai team also showed a fierce face, twisted his neck in place, and jumped a few times. He even walked to the edge of the goal and smashed the goalpost with his fist a few times. Flat, flat, flat. The doorpost suddenly trembled violently, making a loud noise. Beep. However, at this time, Jiang Ning sounded the whistle again. I saw Jiang Ning running towards the goalkeeper of the Danmai team. His face was a little gloomy. Immediately after that, he showed a yellow card warning to the Danmai goalkeeper in the shocked eyes of everyone. The goalkeeper of the Danmai team looked innocent and spread his hands, indicating that he had done nothing. But Jiang Ning glanced at him coldly, making him subconsciously shut his mouth when he wanted to say something. Beep. After doing all this, Jiang Ning sounded the whistle again, urging the penalty to be issued. Phew. Mbappe took a deep breath, and then began to slowly recede. Then, small broken steps, jump steps, leg lifts, pushes. The action is done in one go. The football managed to get into the net. The ball went in. Mbappé's shot successfully deceived the goalkeeper of the Danmai team. The score is rewritten again. 1-1. Tied it. Rumble. There was jubilation. Through his personal ability, Mbappe helped the Hua national team to tie the score. In the 35th minute of the first half, the situation changed again. At this time, in the Huaxia live broadcast room. Ho Wei, good ball. Very crisp and neat. He Wei, dear audience friends, the score has been rewritten again, and now it has been rewritten from 0 to 1 to 1 to 1. He Wei, at present, the Huagua team and the Danmai team each scored a goal, and the two sides are drawn. Seiki Ziyuan, yes, it was a defensive foul by a Danmai player who sent a penalty. Ho Wei, hee. This is a midfielder of the Danmai team. In fact, you can know by looking at the footwork. This is not the footwork that a defensive player should have. Seiki Ziyuan, yes, it's too open. Ho Wei, Mbappe makes his own points, makes his own penalty points, in one go. He is really one of the best players in the world today. Guan Ziyuan, Teacher Huey, just now Jiang Ning also gave the goalkeeper of the Danmai team a yellow card. Guanzi Yuan, can you trouble everyone to talk about the Dao in this? Huey, okay, no problem. Huey, in fact, I believe that many fans have seen similar pictures in the process of watching the game. Hervey, that's when the opponent takes a penalty, the goalkeeper will hit the post a few times. Hervey, actually, it's a deterrent, an attempt to psychologically intimidate opposing players. Hervey, before, there were not too many regulations in the rules of football, so it was not penalized. How? But according to FIFA's latest football match rules document, the penalty for this action has a detailed description and rule supplements. Hervey, he added, when the opposing player takes a penalty, the goalkeeper must not touch the goal frame for any reason, otherwise it will be considered a foul. Seikiza Yuan, so it is. Guanzi Yuan, so the goalkeeper of the Danmai team just now wanted to scare Mbappe by smashing the door? Huey, yes, let's not say that this behavior is irrational, but at least don't forget that the referee of this game is Jiang Ning. Huey, other judges may turn a blind eye, but Jiang Ning will not. Guanzi Yuan, yes, Jiang Ning is notoriously unable to hold a grain of sand in his eyes. Huey, a grain of sand white, I have also heard of this terrier. Guanzi Yuan, ha ha ha. Yes, Guanzi Yuan, okay, let's take a look at the interaction in the live broadcast room, again. Episode 150, Brother Ning's punishment is so professional, such an unpopular foul will not be spared. Inside the Huaxia live broadcast room. Barrage flies. Director Mu broke out. Save Team Ero, I've seen goalkeepers smashing posts before, and I always thought they were cheering myself up. If it wasn't for the two teachers to explain, I really don't know why Brother Ning gave a yellow card to the goalkeeper of the Danmai team. Strange knowledge has increased again. Brother Ning's penalty is so professional, and such an unpopular foul will not be spared. Is Brother Qian returning the flag again? Manual dog head, let's just say that the slogan they shouted is real soil, but it is very flavorful. The next game will be better and better. The crowd in the live broadcast room watched the live game through the screen. The camera of the scene swept to the time when they returned the money. Just saw him leading the live fans of Huaxia, shaking the flag loudly. He also specially made up a slogan for Jiang Ning, which became another strange scenery on the court. At this time, the game is live. The players of the national team are still celebrating wildly. The fans at the scene were also shouting to the sky. Mbappe turned his hands, signaling that the fans' shouts could be louder. Immediately afterwards, Mbappe rushed to the sidelines, and actually stopped in front of the Danmai fans, shaking his arms openly. At the same time, he was also roaring vigorously. This is provoking the fans of the Danmai team. Tell each other that Team VAR will always be Team Varna. Even if you get the ball first, we can tie and even overcome. This is Mbappe. Unlike Namor, he celebrates with a standard samba after every goal. He is also not like Sigong and Messi, who smile more calmly after the goal. Of course, whether it is Sigong, Messi or Namor, they have also been flamboyant and crazy. And Mbappe, it is at the age of the madman. It's 23 years old, and we're about to turn 24. Let me ask, who can become the soul and leader of the team at this age, in the World Cup? He has crazy capital. Beep. Jiang Ning whistled, signaling the game to continue. The ball went back to the Danmai side. This time, the Danmai team regained their mood and began to slowly advance again. But they didn't show any apparent panic. After all, even if they lose a goal, the two sides are just back on the same starting line again. Psychologically, there will be no disadvantage. Boom. It's still Eriksen with the ball. At this time, there is not much regular time left in the first half, and in less than 10 minutes of a draw, it does not mean that you must rush to watch the ball. Whether it's the national team or the Danmai team, the priority now has changed from scoring goals to not conceding goals. Make sure to at least take a draw into the break. Otherwise, it will affect their tactical layout in the second half. So, at this time, Eriksen was slowly holding the ball in midfield, cooperating with his teammates and passing it back and forth. The players of the national team did not rush up and press. Obviously, both sides have the same mentality and are not in a hurry. However, this is also related to the consistent tactical style of the national team. You have to take the ball, but once you are in the alert range, it is another situation. The football was finally sent to the front wing. Eriksen still looked for Mikel. However, because the national team has always maintained a high level of vigilance, it is also very careful not to give them another chance to make corners. This time, the Danmai team's attack was unsuccessful. Attack and defense shifted. It was the turn of the Enamel team to attack. But in the same way, the Enamel team also encountered trouble during the attack. Mbappe was targeted, and Griezmann and Dembele never found any good opportunities. In the end, it was only Dembele who came with a sudden long-range shot, but the quality was not high, it went above the crossbar and flew into the audience. Obviously, Dembele's state today is somewhat affected. Previously, because of his two mistakes, he provoked the anger of head coach Deschamps, and Dembele was also scolded. Since then, Dembele's form has not been able to recover. Time passes slowly between you and me on both sides. Soon, the game time came to the 45th minute of regular time. After thinking about it, Jiang Ning motioned to the assistant referee and gave the decision of 10 minutes of injury time in the first half of the game. 10 minutes. Already exaggerated. This is also a comprehensive judgment given by Jiang Ning considering that Deschamps' conflict incident was delayed for a long time before, plus the factor of 2 goals. For this stoppage time, both players were calm and seemed to be expected. So, the game went on. The two sides are still back and forth, constantly doing offensive and defensive conversions. But both sides played extra cautiously, so there weren't too many good chances. Soon time passed amid the shouts of fans on both sides. He had only about 3 minutes left before the official end of the first half, and at this time, the ball of football was at the feet of the Dynamite team. Boom! The football was sent from the back of the Dynamite team to the midfield. And this time it was not Eriksen who got the ball in midfield. At this time, Eriksen's running position is a little closer than before. After the midfielder of the Dynamite team took the ball, he did not hesitate and immediately sent the ball to the feet of Eriksen, not far ahead. Eriksen, this is using himself as a front waist. Shout. Football is coming. Eriksen is ready to take over. And the national team will naturally not easily let this midfielder core take the ball. If Eriksen can easily hold the ball, it means that the Dynamite team will have another thoughtful organizational attack. And Eriksen is not only experienced, but also very good at his feet, so the players of the national team did not underestimate the enemy, and 2 players immediately came to pack the clip. Boom! When the football fell, Eriksen quickly raised his foot, and the angle of lifting was very delicate. Shout! The football fell precisely at Eriksen's feet. He lifts his foot high enough to allow the ball to fall in and not let it bounce away. And because of the original forward thrust force and Eriksen's foot lifting control, the football immediately rolled forward after burrowing into his feet. The scene erupted into a burst of exclamations and cheers. It's a world-class stoppage. And it still stopped. Not only did he stop the ball, but he also passed the 2 defenders of the national team in front of him. It's not just the word technology. What is needed is the feeling of football, the accurate prediction of the trajectory of football. Shout. The football passed through the feet of 2 players of the national team. And when they reacted, Eriksen had already bypassed them in front of them to catch the ball again. What? This is also too strong. He's a tough opponent. The 2 national team players also had to raise a sense of admiration for Eriksen. However, when they caught up, Eriksen had already passed the football to the left wing. That's where Cornelius is. Here it comes. Cornelius's eyes lit up and he quickly stopped the ball. Eriksen's passing is very accurate, so he is very comfortable catching the ball 4.0. Now in front of Cornelius, only 1 player from the Huagua team is intercepting. All he has to do is shake him. Then look for opportunities to break through into the box, pass or shoot. Shout. Cornelius's feet began to change movements, trying to confuse the other party. But in fact, a whole set of movements down, the whole body fake action, the football is stunned in place without moving. And the players of the national team who are responsible for defending him are also very experienced, and in the same way, they were not deceived and did not move. A meal of operation is as fierce as a tiger, and a pestle is still in place. This made the old face of Cornelius, who had done a complete set of actions, a little unhinging. So, he immediately chose to pass. Because he had already seen that Eriksen was running and ready to receive his pass, but at this moment, the defenders of the Huagua team also moved, stretching out their feet to intercept. But he was still 1 step late, failed to stop the football, but accidentally stepped on Cornelius's foot. Ah! Cornelius screamed and fell to the ground with his feet covered.